Welcome to Underdog Rising with your host, Wade Posehn, where we ignite your journey from humble beginnings to greatness through inspiring tales of top executives and entrepreneurs. Welcome, everybody, to Underdog Rising. Today, we have Mandi Newton with us. She is the VP of Marketing and Business Development at Varsity Painting. Mandi, thank you so much for being with us today and just spending your time with us so that we can hear about your journey.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Wade.
I'd love to, have you share your underdog story and just walk through your journey from after college to where you are today, just so that the listeners can better understand that journey from your perspective.
Sure. And I'm gonna back it up even a little further
I love it.
before college and everything, because I started working at the age of 12. Actually, even a little younger, if you count, babysitting and paper routes and stuff in the mix. But I grew up in a family that were very hard workers and owned their own restaurant business. So they instilled that hard work ethic in me and earning your own money. And so I kind of found anything I could do, to earn my keep. My aunt even paid me to do massage when I was a kid. And I did that professionally later on. But I started working at the family restaurant business when I was 12. I would work there every Friday and Saturday night. And then after that, I stayed in the restaurant business and the hospitality industry for quite some time and into junior college. And then I didn't go your traditional route of college, but I did do some JC locally here in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, and then up in South Lake Tahoe as well. And then I had an opportunity to do some marketing. An ex-boyfriend of mine, actually, his father was one of my first amazing mentors. And he was in the beverage industry and he owned his own cold coffee company. And so he took me under his wing and I started doing some in-person tastings and marketing events in like grocery stores and different events that we could find. And so that's kind of how I got my start in marketing. And then he ended up taking a position with Hanson Beverage Company.
Okay.
And introduced me to their VP of marketing. And that's where I got my first like full-time employed marketing job. And
That's
so
incredible.
I didn't do the college route and get a marketing degree and all of that, but I luckily kind of fell into it and found something that I just was meant to do and that I love and really suits me and my personality.
I think that's incredible. I think our stories start off in so many different ways that it's wonderful just to hear how they all got initiated, and then if you don't mind, kind of just walk the listeners through to where you are today and the other various different positions you held, that might have impacted you being the VP today.
Sure. Well, yeah, I guess just to circle back to, being in the restaurant and hospitality industry, it's very service niche. And so you kind of have to have that kind of natural innate ability to connect with people. And so, I have that. And so, taking care of people and making connections with people, I think started in that field. And then I did get a certificate in massage therapy and I'm a licensed acupuncturist and I used to do Reiki therapy as well. So I kind of went down the holistic therapy route for a while as well, which I really love, like health and nutrition. But I ended up getting injured snowboarding. And I wasn't able to I had two jobs. I was, doing massage and I was bartending in a restaurant and I couldn't go to work. And that's when I kind of had this little light bulb moment where I wanted to stay in that field, but it just didn't seem, I wanted to find something that would still suit my needs and my personality, but that, would have more opportunities with benefits and vacation time and, 401k and these kind of things. And so, and then that's when I met, Perry, my first mentor, and was able to kind of shift directions and start doing some marketing.
You mentioned, having that human connection element, and you see that it's so prevalent in sales and in marketing. And it's just interesting to see how you developed that so early on, just in the situations you were involved in. And now you're the VP of marketing and business development, which ties into that psychology and, developing relationships with people and just being able to think of individuals, especially when you go to market to them and what they might be, facing with their challenges and stuff like that. So if we go to kind of the start of your career, once you're in the corporate world, like what was your first big challenge and how did you go about tackling it?
Yeah, great question. I think my first challenge was so working with Hanson. I got the job with Hanson Beverage Company, and I actually was one of the first employees of Monster Energy Drink. And so
Wow.
it was a really exciting time to be, you know, on the front end of creating this new product and competing against Red Bull and all of the different markets. But I ended up having a colleague that was trying to take credit for my work, and
Mm,
that was really tricky because I, you know, I didn't want to be a snitch and, you know, kind of
right.
tattletale
Yeah.
on this person. um but what I ended up doing, you know, one of the tips and tricks, you know, is to really kind of document your work. And it's one thing to,
Mm,
you know, if you're talking to your boss or your superiors, you know, a lot of times they're going to ask you what you did today or how did your week go, what were your highlights. And if you're in sales and marketing, you're going to talk about your days and what accounts you went into or any successes that you may have had. And I just was really good at documenting all of that information. So I created a daily log and a weekly log. And so I was able to just send that information to my superiors. And so,
mm.
you know, they were able to see the fruits of my labor and the successes that I was having. So ultimately that person that was trying to take credit, it didn't end up working out for them because they could see what I was doing and I was really good at communicating what I was doing. So it all worked out for me in the end, but that was definitely challenging.
That's just really great, because it's somebody else is trying to leverage what you were doing to make them get visible. And I think you just taking it one step further and sort of developing this, daily tracker or an accomplishment tracker to get visibility with leadership and higher ups was just phenomenal. Like you just documented that. And I think, so often today things move really fast that people don't think about doing something like that. But it is important to get that visibility in front of higher ups or executives or your direct reports. So you overcame, I don't necessarily want to call it a mistake, but you identified an area of life that you could improve upon. So if we look at like learning from mistakes, right? So often when we're starting out in our careers, we go through mistakes or we don't do things correctly. Are there common mistakes that you see young professionals making in this day and age? And do you have any insight into how they could potentially avoid those?
I think there's, you know, several different things, but one that came to mind was, you know, today's a new age of social media. And, you know,
Yeah.
that wasn't around when I got my start, right? So my private life was my private life and my
Mm,
professional life was my professional life. And now there definitely is a crossover. And a lot of my clients, I actually have more clients following my personal pages than I do my work social pages. And I'm trying to
interesting.
increase that, right? But I
Mm,
think it's really important for people to know that they may have colleagues, clients, potential clients looking at their social pages and that it's all out there. It's not private. And
mm.
you know, you need to be careful about the image that you want to put out there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think a big thing this day and age is perception is reality. The way people look and view things, they will develop an opinion on an individual, whether it's, based off of thought leadership on LinkedIn or, social media profile pictures or whatever it might be. And I think that that is a element to be very sensitive of. And I think that's wonderful that you're able to share that because like you mentioned back in the day, there really wasn't that. And then since, the inception of social media, it, people forget that they need to draw that line in the sand and be respective of that. So no, I appreciate that. I think that that is a huge growth point for individuals these days to focus on. So what was a pivotal growth point in your career, like a moment that really helped define your path forward?
There's been so many different experiences. So I was
Right.
trying, you know, because I didn't mention I was even in the dental field at one time, you know, and
Wow.
so many different experiences, you know, and it's funny. I've been, you know, times that I've done like a ride along with my boss and, you know, driving through past different places. And it's like, oh, I've worked here and I did that and I worked there, you know, and he's like, what haven't you done, Mandy? You know, but all of that really helped develop who I am today. And now, you know, it's amazing that I found such a great company that I've been with for 17 years. But coming over to varsity, I really wanted to, and even before that, the company I was at after leaving the beverage business, I really wanted to find a home and somewhere that I could really help the company grow and build upon
Mhm.
what they already have established. And so the company I was at before was a restoration company, and I learned
Mm.
they really invested in their people as far as presentations and public speaking, and not a lot
Big
of
one.
companies and employers do that. And so it was awesome that I learned that. I'm great in front of people and talking and having conversations, but it's totally different when you have to stand in front of 100 people and do a presentation or
Very
something like
different.
that, right? And so I loved all the tools that I gained from that company, because it really helped my confidence.
Mm.
And then that helps, when you're out selling your product or you're marketing your product, you're able to take those tips and tricks and kind of learn from it.
Yeah, and I think it touches on, sort of that soft skill, of just being able to build relationships. And that's probably why you are in the position. Well, one of the elements as to why you're in the position you are today, because you're so great at building those relationships. And it's just interesting to see all the various different elements you've been in to kind of grow yourself, right? Kind of envelop that underdog story, because in those small moments we might not have seen it, but you might have faced elements of fear, or nervousness and speaking to people or large crowds. But now you can just speak to anybody and everyone, but you were willing to put yourself out there, and kind of face those hard moments, which is exceptional. So what skill do you think is the most important for young professionals to develop today?
I guess it's really about having confidence in yourself and having the knowledge of what you're selling or present, right? People listening to this may be coming from, all different walks of life, and maybe in all sorts of different industries. But it's really important to know what it is that you're representing. And it's okay to not have all the answers too, right? And so what's kind of frustrating is if somebody's asked a question and you can kind of tell that they don't know, but they make something up, right? They don't want to not have all the answers. They're scared to not have all the answers, and so they kind of just make something up on the spot. And so, my advice would just be, that's a great question, I don't know the answer, but let me find out, because I
Mm.
want to know as well, and then let me get back to you. So it's always better to be honest and find the answer, that they're looking for.
I think oftentimes people get very shy, and it kind of goes back into that your element that you touched on of speaking and just being able to
Mm-hmm.
talk to individuals, and yeah, just being honest and not being afraid to not know the answer, like you touched on. I think that is exceptional, because you can't know all the answers, right? And I believe as you go up into leadership, like you were there to lead the team and the strategy for those teams and the company, but you also can't take on everything. You can't
Mm-hmm.
know everything. So you need people to go out and learn and understand elements so that, they can then work on it and then report up. So you also touched on that you'd been with, varsity painting for a long time, 17 plus years now, which is exceptional. And I think so often you see people, switching careers now, right? Because they want to climb the corporate ladder. You don't really see loyalty and longevity these days. So can you share a leadership lesson that you've learned the hard way?
What I learned again from my stepdad and his restaurant business, and what my employer does too, is really, treating everybody with respect no matter what their position is.
Mm.
And so my stepdad was great with, whether it was, the dishwasher or the busboy or whatever, to his managers, running the company. It was like he treated everybody with respect. And my employer does that too, really taking care of your people and making sure. And that's why I've stayed around so long, right? It's an investment in yourself and in your company, and when you're working with people that are happy and they want to come to work every day, because the product that they're representing, is that means a lot.
Mm.
But a leadership role that I learned the hard way, I guess, because I am friendly and extroverted and outgoing. Sometimes, I want everybody to be my friend.
Okay.
and and sometimes, so where I struggle and I'm still learning is, to be a leader and a mentor, but
Mhm.
also know that I am somebody's supervisor. And sometimes you have to have those hard questions, or those hard conversations rather. It's great to be friendly, but you also kind of know your ranking, and also just to,
Mm.
treat everybody no matter where they're at and what they do with respect.
Yeah, that's a very important element, and sometimes those lines get blurred, which it's a fine balance, like you mentioned. But you spoke about mentorship, and I think that this day and age with social media, there's a lot of mentors out there online, not necessarily like in person. Has mentorship really helped shape your perspective on the corporate career, the path that you wanted to go down? And do you think it's extremely important for people nowadays to have mentors?
Yeah, most definitely. I think that I really got lucky at having people that came into my life at
Mm.
different times when I really needed them. And a lot of them were employers of mine or colleagues of mine. And, having those people to kind of help direct you, because you don't know what you don't know, and we're all learning. Again, like you said, we don't have all
Exactly.
the answers, and so it's wonderful when you can find somebody that's willing to take the time to sit down and talk with you and guide you a little bit. And so
Yeah.
I've learned a lot from many people in my career and in my life, and I'm so thankful that they've taken the time to show me and guide me and help to educate me. And so now I'm trying to pay that forward, as often as I can, talking to young professionals and helping in any way I can.
So often I think younger individuals starting out in their career, I know I was there too at that point in time. Sometimes you don't really know where to even go, where to start, where to begin. So it's great reaching out to people and having people give back that are in positions such as yours, just to kind of help, refine or, gentle nudge in the right direction or give advice so that they can make a better decision on what they want to do in life. And you also spoke about, you held positions within the service industry, a bartender, etc. Do you think it's important slash valuable to maybe jump into a service role? Because I know that there's valuable lessons to be learned there, but I'd love to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that everybody should have a job in the service industry at some point. You know, you learn so much doing that,
Yes,
whatever that,
definitely.
yeah. And my husband actually, his father owns a tree service, and so that's how he got his start in landscaping and tree care. And so when he went to college, he was actually like a tree worker, and
Wow.
now he's got his master's degree and he's a school psychologist, and he's come a long way. But all of
Yeah.
those lessons that he's learned and that I've learned from our start in working and really getting your hands dirty, and
Yeah.
I think you learn so much, and it's really going to teach you a lot in your future endeavors.
So often at times, people will look at, oh no, I got to go either work at, a Chick-fil-A or a fast food restaurant or a bar slash restaurant. And some people look down on that in a sense, but it's like you need to, I always say it's not what you look at, it's what you see, right? It's don't look at the negative side of it, like look at the positive, because you will get so much out of it and you will grow immensely as an individual. And you might not realize it in that moment in time, but once you're in the corporate world or starting your own company or business, those elements and that you learned within those industries will be flourishing, when you're at that point within your career.
I agree
Mm.
100%. And I'm trying to instill those lessons in my boys. I have two
Mm.
sons, and the value of a hard day's work, right? And
Yeah.
and so, they're already at 10 and 12, they're doing different types of chores and different jobs so they can earn money.
Oh,
And
great.
whether it be dog walking or, whatever it is, because there is a lot of life lesson out of that, and just learning to like budget your money, and knowing what type of work and how much you're going to get paid, and then
Mm.
being able to save up for something that you are interested in. There's a lot of life skills in that for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think that stemmed from you also having, started working earlier on in your life, or was it just like, hey, I want to set my sons up for success and kind of get them to have a feel for what life is really going to be like?
Yeah, I mean, I guess because I don't really know any different, right? That's what was instilled in me. My parents were really hard workers as well and started working really young, and since I learned so much about it. I definitely want to pass that on to my boys. And, you know, we're really fortunate. I grew up in a really amazing community, pretty affluent community. And that's
Hmm.
actually where, you know, I clawed my way back to live back into this town to also, also raise my children here. And there's a lot of entitlement. You know, they're seeing, you know, all sorts of people with, you know, big homes and fancy cars and, you know, oh, well, that kid has a Sur on. I'm like, I'm not buying you a $4,000 electric motorcycle. You're 12 years old, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But it's like, okay, but if you want to work for it and save up, I'll help you with that purchase. Right. So they'll even sometimes take loans. You know, they want to get something. So I'll
That's
let them take out a
impressive.
loan and then they have to pay me back and making them accountable for it too.
And I mean, I think that's really strategic, because often at times those core elements are not taught within the high school environment, the taxes, budgeting, loans, and that is how the real world works, right? Especially if you want to start your own business someday as well. It's always like that quote where the only time success comes before work is in the dictionary.
Oh, funny.
Just
Yeah.
yeah, like it is true. Everyone wants success, but it's like you got to realize you got to put in that work over time. So, a fun, entertaining question I like to ask is, um, at any given moment in time, how many tabs do you have open on your computer screen?
That's awesome. Let me count.
Okay.
Right now there's eight. No, nine.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
that's impressive. We've had a range that will fluctuate. Some people have like 40, I've heard. So
Oh,
I
wow.
think you're doing a great job at doing like tab management. So kudos to you for that. But I know it's a
Yeah.
great question just to swing off the cuff. And then just an additional one: what apps, plugins, or software do you currently use that might optimize or make your life a little bit easier?
Oh, like Chat GPT.
Okay, there we go. That
No,
is one.
I just started playing with that, and
Okay.
it's pretty fun to kind of mess around with. There's a lot of conversation actually about AI in the industries that I'm involved in, and you know, and then in schools, obviously,
Very true.
and you know how much it can be a benefit to your work and make things easier and time management, but also the conversations about like plagiarism and all of those things, you know, are coming up. But my favorite is Google Drive.
Okay, there we
Yeah,
go.
I
That is one
right.
too. It's interesting to, identify what executive entrepreneurs, CEOs just kind of like leverage from a day-to-day basis so that younger professionals starting out can get an idea of the various different platforms that are out there for them to use. I know you have a wealth of knowledge in networking and hosting events or attending events. What are your top networking tips for someone that might just be starting out in their career?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, anything, it's really about connecting with the individual and finding out what their interests are.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, it could be, you know, if you're just getting to know somebody, it could be as simple as a phone call or grabbing a cup of coffee,
Hmm.
just to have a conversation, right? And get to know that person a little bit more. And then as you develop that relationship and you really get to know what their interests are, then, you know, kind of the world's your oyster. It could be anything, you know, from like, you know, taking a woman to a spa day or mani pedis or to a concert or to a sporting event. And, you know, there's different, things that you can do to really connect with somebody and you know find similar interests.
I definitely agree with you. It's sometimes with the social element of it, it can seem a little bit disconnected, because everyone will follow and comment, but you really do have to help yourself stay top of mind with individuals, but hone in on that relationship and really get to know the individual versus just, liking, following, or just only chatting to them when they're at events, like really following up with individuals. So I like that you shared that. I think that that's really important for people to know and learn this day and age because social media is so prevalent. And with you having worked in multiple different industries, I'm sure you've developed like some tips or tricks along the way. Like, what is one thing that you wish you knew before starting your very first job?
I guess one thing would be, you know, the answer's always no if you don't ask,
I love that one.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, some things that I learned, you know, is that believe in yourself and always kind of ask for what you think that you deserve and that you're worth.
Mm,
There's always the ability to negotiate. Some positions may just have flat rates, like, hey, this is the position, this is what we're paying, there's no negotiating. But a lot of times, in the industries that I'm in sales and marketing, there's some wiggle room there, right? And based on your experience, right,
yeah.
you'll be, the range may be quite different. And so, I always suggest start high, because who knows, you might get it. And
Right.
if not, right, and if not, you can always negotiate down. But just have that confidence and know your worth.
Yeah, I agree. I think the anchoring high is really correct. Just because not too high, right, where it's exorbitant, and you're like, okay, now you're
Right.
just overshooting the mark. But
Yeah.
knowing your value, and then being able to back that, right? If you go in and
Mhm.
say these are the reasons why I feel like I deserve X, Y, and Z, but then ultimately at the end of the day, like you stated, it's a negotiation. So have that back and forth. But if you anchor yourself low, that's the threshold that you're setting, right? Companies most times won't go, okay, we'll give you more. They'll meet you at that mark.
And just to piggyback on that, ask for a review. And if you've been growing and developing in your position, I've mentored a lot of young professionals that I'll talk to them, and they're still making the exact same wage as when they came on 5 years ago. And they'll, express to me their frustration
Hmm.
that, oh, I'm doing a great job, but I'm only making this. And it's a similar job to what I'm doing or to what my colleagues are doing. And it's like, well, have a sit down with your boss, and like you said, bring those, all your successes to the table, and say, these are the reasons why I think I should get a bump, or I
Hmm.
should be making more money, right? And
Hmm.
have the confidence and the know-how, but all the backing to prove your worth.
Yeah, and I think that circles back to your original one of your original points around sort of the daily log or weekly log, right? If you
Hmm.
are able to implement that in your daily life, it will help you when it comes to those times for the review process, right? Because you'll have all the daily logs and the weekly logs, and then you can identify those wins because you're referencing that when you go into those conversations. And you touched on, the review part of it. Um, and I think that's a key element for people nowadays to grow their careers. But from your perspective, in this current, economic environment, what is the best way for a young professional to grow their career if they're just starting out?
So I'm a huge fan of trade associations. So depending on what business they're in, there's usually always groups, in that
Hmm.
market. So, again, just for me in sales and marketing, but I actually work, a lot of my clients are property managers that manage either
Right.
homeowner associations or apartments or commercial buildings or facilities. And I have a whole, trade affiliation worksheet with all of the different groups and what the
Hmm.
membership dues are, and all of that. And I think that there's so much benefit to getting involved with those groups. There's a lot of education. They'll do, usually there's monthly educational luncheons. They also put on a lot of networking events. So you're not having to build it from scratch. You can actually
Very
just sign up
nice.
to attend, and then you're mixing and mingling, right, with either current clients or potential clients or colleagues.
Hmm.
And I think it's wonderful to have really good, strong relationships with your colleagues,
Okay.
because they can, really help you to open up doors. So instead of like doing a cold call, right, they may already have a relationship with somebody. And so utilizing them and their relationships, can really help you to grow your business.
That's brilliant. Like I didn't even know of all those associations and stuff, and I think that is a great way. I think there's multiple opportunities that could come from that. Even if you're with a company, going back to the previous point, and you've been making the same amount for the past 5 years, the interview doesn't go the way you want it, then you could, reach out and ask the people for assistance, or if there's any other positions that are open for them. I think that is really great. Sometimes there's often a conversation that is had around um, people being sort of unhappy with their careers. And I think sometimes that's a mindset thing that individuals have to work on. So I just would like to touch on, from your perspective, daily habits. Like, has there been a daily habit or maybe just something in general that you've done consistently over time that has helped contribute to your success?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a big proponent of making your bed every day.
Ah,
And I know that
love it.
that's
No,
right.
I love
That's
it.
it.
I
In
do the same
self-help
thing.
books.
Yep.
Yeah. It's starting your day clean and organized. And you've already, as soon as you've gotten out of bed, you've already accomplished something, right?
Yes.
So that is done. Again, I mentioned about, health and nutrition. I start my day every day with, a protein shake and my
Mm,
vitamins and all of that because, taking care of your body and your mind is really important. And that'll help you, just feel good. And so you can be on point on your game every day. And then the mental part of it that you touch base on too, I have this wooden sign that I see every day when I walk down the hall, and it's the best is not too good for you. And
oh,
I love that quote. And it's like just to remind yourself, because we go through highs and lows, and some days we're feeling great and other days not so much, and different things happen in our lives that may kind of damper your spirit a little bit, so there's that one sign. And I mean, just all I love, positive affirmations and
yes.
helpful quotes. I have different things all through my home, and just I like to have those reminders. um, and I have an amazing friend who actually sends me daily texts in the morning just about you
That's
know
incredible.
to have an amazing day and remember all these wonderful things about you that I see. And she goes out of her way to send that because she loves spreading joy and love and sunshine in her life. And so I'm so lucky that I have a friend like that helps me every day. So even if I'm in a funk, it's like, wow, okay,
Mm,
she's still putting out some good vibes to me today. So you know those
wow.
are a few things that I love.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, you touched on so many points there. So I really appreciate you going into all that. But it is true, there is I know oftentimes we read self-help books and people, go into this whole idea of, oh, that's just all sayings, right? But if you really do work on it, and there is truly a mind-body connection when you do work out, it doesn't have to be the most intense hour-long workout. Just do something for 10, 20 minutes a day if you can, but start your day off healthy, get your mind in the right place. And um, it's like I was having a conversation with somebody a while back, and it's change the perception, right? Because once again, perception is reality. But it's
Mhm.
not I have to go to work, it's I get to go to work. Like, this is
Right.
exciting. Like, I get to work remote or whatever it might be. Like, change that mind frame, so then your whole day, your whole trajectory will be altered from that. So I really appreciate you
Yeah.
speaking to that. And then, just for listeners today, are there any book recommendations that you might have at all? If not a book recommendation, perhaps a podcast or a YouTube resource that people can maybe turn to just expand their knowledge?
Hmm. I've read so many different books, but yeah, I have a lot of those self-help books, like The Power of Now, and
Okay.
following different people, like Deepak Chopra and Tony
Mhm.
Robbins and Wayne Dyer. And a lot of those I got to see speak live.
No, that's
And
incredible.
hmm and then and I love that I'm on your podcast, but I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. So,
No,
but the
that's
one that
totally
I
fine.
that I do listen to is he's a doctor of naturopathy and an Ayurvedic practitioner, and his name is Stephen Cabral, and
Okay.
he does 20-minute podcasts every day from the Cabral concept. And I love those because it's only 20 minutes, and every day it's learning something about health
Mhm.
and nutrition. Or he's got on Mondays it's mindset Mondays. And so, different tips and tricks for, putting
Yeah.
your mind in the right place.
I think that's important. People need that little bit of information and that resource just to keep going. I think sometimes we get stuck, and it's good to keep pushing through. So, I wanted to ask you another sort of different question. In your opinion, because you've been on the other side, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important would a college major choice be if one had to choose one, and why?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that college is really important.
Hmm.
My life took me, down some interesting paths, and so, like I mentioned, I did go to junior college, but I didn't finish that, and I don't have a degree. And it really is, I don't have a lot of regrets in life, but if I were to have one, that probably would be it. I don't know that it would have totally altered or changed what I'm doing today, and
Hmm.
I luckily fell into what I'm doing, and I love it. But I think that there's so much that you can gain from going to college and having that in your back pocket, right? Because even if you do study something and get a degree in something, and you find you get into the real world, the work life, and you find it's not for you, you still have that degree in your back pocket that you can change. Because I see, on a lot of job opportunities, they require that. They want
Hmm.
a 4-year degree to
Right.
even get your foot in the door. And so, where I may have so much experience and on the job experience, and I would be an amazing candidate for someone, I
Hmm.
may not even get the opportunity because I didn't get that degree. So I think,
Interesting.
I guess I would say that it probably is like on a 7, on
Okay.
that scale
Yeah, no,
of
valid. And
importance.
I appreciate you answering that question, and just being honest and vulnerable with it, because you
Sure.
do have a different perspective, and I think that that is wonderful for viewers to hear, because you do have a different underdog story, and you really were able to maneuver through life with a different set of tools and skills, right? Like being able to network and meet people and then find opportunities through other people. Like that is such a way to blossom, I think, in the corporate world in such a different, unique way, So yeah, I don't want you to have too many regrets, but that's, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you've really come a very long way, and it's really wonderful to see that. So kind of just in closing, I'd like to. I know we've kind of gotten through a lot of elements. We've given a lot of advice, so I appreciate that.
Mhm.
But sort of for this next generation that are going to one day turn into the future leaders, right? Like, do you have any advice in closing that you would like to share? Final comments for college students or young professionals sort of eager to make their mark in the business world?
Yeah, I mean, I think work life balance is really important, and I could see being a young professional and wanting to just put 100% of themselves into work, and
Yeah.
that's super important. But again, we talked about the the health and wellness and mindset balance. It's like you really need to find the time to make time for yourself and to take care of yourself and your health and your mind and your body, so you can give 110% when you're working, right? So many people just grind and grind and grind, and they're burning the candle at both ends. And um, and then you end up with health issues and brain
Mhm.
fog and stress and all these different things. So it's great to have work ethic and work hard, but it's also really important to find that balance of joy and fun and experiences in your life too.
No, and thank you for sharing that, because that is a very integral part of it. So often we plug ourselves into work and then that side kind of drops, and it is important to take care of yourself, like you mentioned, because then you can give 100%. So, Mandy, I just want to thank you for being on the podcast today. It has been so great catching up with you and hearing about your journey. And I think there's so much advice throughout this episode that people are going to take from it. One thing I'd like to ask is, where could people potentially connect with you or reach out to you if they're interested in, kind of following up with you?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This has been
Yeah.
fun. But yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Mandi Newton on LinkedIn is probably the best. I'm on
Okay.
most of the social channels, but I think that would be probably the most appropriate place. And
Okay.
there,
No, that's
yeah.
great. I'll tag it in the show notes so that everybody can, find you and connect with you. But I just appreciate your time and being here with us today, sharing and kind of giving back to those who are going to be in your position one day, within life. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely happy to be here. Thanks so much.